Right guys, welcome back. In the last video we made our super awesome, super high resolution fence post. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at ways we can copy this. We can duplicate it along the full length of our curve. Okay, so let's just put the display flag back on that resample node and then do space F just to frame up on it. And I'm also going to turn on the point display as well, because it'll help me visualize what's going on. Okay. So straight off the bat, we could put down a copy to points node and make sure you select the right one. So copy to points. Okay, and this node takes two inputs. Okay, the first input is some geometry that it needs to copy, so we can take our fence post into there. And the second input is some target points to copy to, so we can take our target points that live on our curve and plug them in. All right. I'm just going to turn off point display again. Okay, and you can see already we're starting to get those things copied to points. I'm just going to up the resample value a little bit because this curve is actually quite a bit bigger than I anticipated. So I'm going to drop the resample node, and you can see that every time we reduce it, it's copying another version of our fence post onto it. Now, obviously, there are a couple of issues with it. You know, the fence post is not following in a logical way. So let's take a look at how we can fix that. Okay, so here are our points. Okay, and if I middle click on the resample node, I get some information about what data is coming into this node. So at the moment we've got 200 points coming in. All right, and the attributes that we've got on these points, all these points is just a position in space. So P indicates position. All right, so it's only got the position attribute. It doesn't know which way is up or which way is left or which way is right, because we haven't told it that yet. We haven't given it a normal. And you've probably heard this term before when you've been modeling, you know, normal, face weighted normal. Normal in 3D graphics is just a direction. It's a vector that describes a direction. And we can assign a normal vector to these points to give them a direction. Okay, so the normal vector that we want to give these points is following along the tangent of this curve. Okay, so we want this point normal to point to this point normal to point to this, point to this, point to this, etc., all the way around. Okay, and we can do that with a polyframe node. Okay. And we're just going to plug that in there, put the display flag on it so I can see where I'm working. And in the polyframe node, we just need to specify that the normal is going to be the tangent of that curve. So we can uncheck that. And where it says tangent name, we're just going to assign the normal value to it. Okay. And then if we turn on our normal display here, so display normals on our viewport, you can see these little tails firing off from the point, which is the normal vector now. So we've given these points a direction. Okay, and as you can see, it follows the curvature of our curve pretty nicely. You might have a few sort of erroneous ones here that sort of fly off into space. We can fix that by just changing the style of how these normals are calculated, so we can reference just the first edge. Okay, and that should fix that. And let me just check this angle here. There we go. Yeah. Cool. So now that we've established that these points have a direction, our copy to point will use that when copying these assets. Okay, so there we go. And we're getting, you know, we're chasing down the problem. We're one step closer. Obviously the fence post is seated the wrong way, but that's fine. We could put down a transform node, and after the fence post we can just drop that on the curve there, and we could just rotate it in Y by 90 degrees. Okay, so now we're getting the correct layout along the length of that curve. Cool. So just checking that it's still completely procedural, I can go all the way back up to my curve node And with it selected, if I press enter in the viewport, I can see these little purple dots that allow me to modify the position of it. So I can just make it a little bit smaller, because I think I made it a bit too big first time round. But as you can see, all the nodes are sort of working together in a procedural way to update the system in a way that we would expect. Okay, and just to really sort of hammer home the point, we can put down, say, a circle and make sure it's aligned flat on the grid. Convert that circle to polygons. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And if we plug that into our resample, you can see already we're starting to get quite a robust way of generating these fences. Okay, so I'm just going to plug that curve back in, and we'll leave that circle there for testing. All right. I seem to have got a little bit of an error here, but that's okay. We will fix that in a second. Cool. So the next thing we can do is to generate the sort of the central post that goes all the way around the. Here we go. We just want to make sure that's checked as well on the polyframe node. The next thing we want to do is add the sort of the central plank that runs all the way around. Okay, and we can take advantage of our existing curve here. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to show you a very, very quick and dirty way of doing it, and then we'll look at a little bit more of a flexible way of doing it. So we can take this curve and we can put a sweep node down. Now sweep is a node that will generate geometry from curves. Okay, just going to put the display flag on that. Notice how I'm branching off from my initial building curve, and we're using this curve again to create another section of our. So the sweep node usually requires a second input, but you can tell it to use a square tube, for example. And then we'll just give it some end caps as well. And we'll just drop the columns down to 0, and then maybe just drop the size down a bit. Okay, so now we've got this section, which is the full curve, and we've also got our uprights. We can merge these two systems together. So I'm going to select both nodes, and I'm going to hold Alt and click on the little dot underneath, and that will put down a merge. So if I click, we get this merge here now. And then just to raise that up a little bit, I'm just going to put a transform node down. And then in the Y component, we can just move that up a little bit. And that fence post is a bit chunky, so we just drop the. So there we go. Already you can sort of see how we're breaking down this system. There's a couple more things I want to do. I want to add in some corner posts as well, and add in a better way of creating this middle piece, which is a bit more robust. Okay, so we'll do that in the next video. So thanks for watching.